Hello, and welcome to the City of Tempe's Phase 3 ADA Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan Public Involvement Presentation. We're here to provide a quick review of what has been assessed during the three phases and to discuss ongoing progress the city has made to improve accessibility. We hope this information is helpful as we seek your involvement in our efforts. Our agenda for today's presentation is an explanation of the ADA Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan, including the purpose, approach, and the process of the plan. With the help of city staff, we will present an overview of the findings and a summary of progress the city continues to make in various departments. And in conclusion, we will introduce where the documents can be viewed, how you can provide input through the public survey, and explain the project's next steps. Then we will have an opportunity for question and answers at the live presentation. First, I would like to introduce Dr. Humes, the City of Tempe's Chief Diversity Officer.
Hello, I'm Dr. Valisa McMillan Humes, Chief Diversity Officer with the City of Tempe. The City of Tempe is committed to advancing the social inclusion of community members living with disabilities, and we want to hear from you. Since 2015, we have been conducting a comprehensive assessment of our city buildings, parks and recreation, facilities, streets, crosswalks, trails, and bus stops. Today, we are proud to present the results of the final phase of this assessment. We will share the progress we've made, listen to your feedback, and better understand the challenges you continue to face so that together we can build a more inclusive Tempe. Your voice is critical as we plan future accessibility improvements. Please take a few minutes to watch the following presentation and at the end, join the conversation by completing a short survey. Your feedback will help shape the next phase of our community's accessibility efforts.
Thank you, Dr. Humes. And I am Steve Hens, Accessibility Director with Cole, and we've been working with the city on their phased approach to the ADA Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan project since 2015. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires public agencies to complete an ADA compliance self-evaluation of the city's policies, programs, and services, the city's communication, facilities open to the public, parks, and pedestrian access features such as sidewalks, curb ramps, bus stops, and traffic signals. The goal of the self-evaluation is to identify barriers to equal access for persons with disabilities. After identifying barriers to access, the ADA self-evaluation becomes the basis for the ADA transition plan. The ADA transition plan is a living action plan the city undertakes to remediate barriers, and it includes party responsible for the implementation of the plan, prioritize schedule to remove barriers, and the estimated cost to remove the identified barriers. As a living action plan, the ADA transition plan should be updated regularly to show continued progress. As stated earlier, Cole began working with the City of Tempe in 2015 to provide a three-phase approach to the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. Phase 1 included evaluation of curb ramps, sidewalks, pedestrian signals, bus stops, downtown area parking, and 10 city parks. Phase 2 included evaluation of curb ramps, sidewalks, pedestrian signals, bus stops north of Guadalupe and surrounding the Phase 1 area, including 9 parks and multi-use trails. Phase 3 included the city's remaining parks and trails, park restrooms, service accommodations, and city facilities. Collection from the self-evaluation is integrated into the city's Geographic Information System, or GIS, which provides a geographic mapped database linked with compliance assessment reports. This allows the city to plan projects, track remediation efforts, and update their inventory. This is a map of the Phase 1 assessment area and the parks and parking facilities that were assessed. Along with the 10 parks and 5 parking facilities, the Phase 1 self-evaluation resulted in collecting 38 miles of sidewalks, 664 curb ramps, 88 pedestrian signals, 131 bus stops, and 500 on-street parking spaces, with a total estimated cost of remediation of almost $12 million, $9 million of which is attributed to sidewalks. This is a map of the Phase 2 assessment area in the parks that were assessed. Along with the 9 parks, the Phase 2 self-evaluation resulted in collecting 104 miles of sidewalk, 1,690 curb ramps, 157 pedestrian signals, 386 bus stops, and 13.4 miles of trails, with a total estimated cost for remediation of $38 million, $30 million of which is attributed solely to sidewalks. And this is a map of the Phase 3 assessment area, including 44 city facilities and the remaining 32 parks that were assessed. Along with the 32 parks, the Phase 3 self-evaluation resulted in collecting 69 miles of sidewalk, 961 curb ramps, 204 pedestrian signals, 174 bus stops, and 36 miles of trails. The total estimated remediation cost of over $25 million and almost $19 million of which is attributed solely to sidewalks. For public agencies to maximize the impact remediation efforts have on providing equal access, non-compliant barriers discovered during the self-evaluation are required to be prioritized. Priority is given to non-compliant elements where public comment has identified elements that are non-compliant. Planned projects that alter non-compliant elements are required to bring these elements into compliance, such as street projects that alter the roadway service are required to bring curb ramps into compliance. And prioritization of non-compliant elements based on the severity of non-compliance and the activity score based on pedestrian activity, proximity to government services, schools, and libraries. Now to discuss the accessibility progress being made throughout the city, I would like to introduce Dave McClure, landscape architect in community services and parks and recreation.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave McClure, the landscape architect with the Parks and Recreation Department that oversees parks projects, along with the Capital Improvement Project CIP team. Arredondo Park renovation included an expanded playground area in the middle of the park that previously had no existing sidewalk connection. A new ADA-compliant sidewalk was added with the renovation, along with an additional ADA parking space and access aisle for a total of 3 compliant spaces. We also provided 2 accessible picnic areas with ADA-compliant tables, with one of those areas being located under a new ramada. New accessible benches, a 2-tier drinking fountain, playground equipment, and full rubber surfacing were also part of the renovation project. Clark Park is one of our largest renovation projects that provides a new playground area with full rubber surfacing and inclusive playground equipment, a new, more centrally located ADA accessible unisex restroom building was added to replace the old restrooms. We also added a new picnic ramada with compliant tables and an accessible sidewalk with ADA spaces, next to the new benches that provided a connection to the existing basketball court and volleyball courts. A total of 8 ADA parking spaces with access aisles were added at 3 different locations around the park. Mitchell Park. The Mitchell Park renovation project included new inclusive playground equipment with rubber surfacing to all the equipment. An accessible large ramada was added with accessible picnic tables next to the playground area. Non-compliant sidewalks were replaced throughout the park, and 2 new ADA on-street parking spaces were added for a total of 3 spaces. A concrete pad was installed at the dog park gate for easy access, along with a new sidewalk to the volleyball court with ADA space next to the new bench. Meyer Park. Meyer Park improvements included 2 new on-street ADA parking spaces along Alameda Drive and 1 on Dorsey for 3 total. New ADA-compliant sidewalks were added around the playground and ramada areas. 2 new ramadas were constructed with ADA-accessible picnic tables at both locations. Accessible spaces were provided next to the new benches around the playground area, along with 2-tier drinking fountain. The playground includes new accessible equipment with full rubber surfacing. I would like to now introduce Ed Bond, who will give progress updates for our roadways.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ed Bond, Senior Civil Engineer for Public Works, where I oversee our right-of-way improvements as it relates to ADA projects. The city has completed curb ramp improvements, such as those seen in this photo. The improvements here occurred at the intersection of University Drive and Mill Avenue in Phase 1 of the assessment area in the heart of downtown Tempe. Curb ramps at this intersection were built as directional, which allow for an allowing path of travel for both directions of travel at each corner. Phase 1 improvements also include curb ramp updates to the intersection of 6th Street and Forest Avenue and 7th Street at Forest Avenue, as well as the Vista del Cerro corridor east of Rural Road. The city has also completed pedestrian push-button improvements, such as those seen in this photo. The improvements here occurred at the intersection of University Drive and Mill Avenue in the Phase 1 assessment area. Other pedestrian push-button improvements in the city have also occurred at the intersection of 48th Street and Broadway Road, as well as Broadway Road and 52nd Street. Furthermore, the city has completed curb ramp improvements such as those seen in this photo. The improvements here occurred at the intersection of Smith Road and 5th Street in Phase 2 of the assessment area. The city has completed curb ramp improvements such as those seen in this photo. The improvements here occurred at the intersection of McClintock Drive and Redfield Road in Phase 3 of the City of Tempe assessment area. I also wanted to take the time to mention that the city has replaced ramps along arterial corridors such as 48th Street, Warner Road, McClintock Drive, and several neighborhood and industrial areas. These improvements total to more than 800 curb ramps on our street network since 2015. We also have upcoming improvements along 8th Street, east of Rural Road, and Scottsdale Road between Curry and Continental Drive. The city has also made ADA accessibility improvements to transit bus stops across Tempe. Here is a representative photo of these improvements on McClintock Drive, just north of 8th Street in Phase 1 of the assessment area. Other transit stop improvements that have occurred across the city are on Broadway Road between Beck and Priest Drive, and on Smith Road, just south of University Drive. I'd now like to introduce Charlie Bladine, who will discuss improvements made at our city facilities.
Hello, I'm Charlie Bladine, the Facilities Manager for City of Tempe, and I want to share with you today some of the projects that we've been working on in facilities relating to the results of the ADA transition plan. This slide shows a parking lot at our parking garage structure for Main PD, Courts, and the Mission Palms. We had identified in the transition plan numerous items that needed to be corrected for accessibility. One was restriping and widening some of the ADA parking stall spaces, new and improved signage that included the correct height for the signage. The next project we took on was at our Tempe Adult Health Services restroom. The Adult Health Services facility serves primarily elderly individuals that are in some need of help and assistance. And after learning more about the program, we really realized that those restrooms that they currently were using really did not make sense from an ADA standpoint. ADA in these restrooms were brought all up to code. New dispensers were added at the right height and locations, and then also a garbage can was placed in the correct vicinity of the toilet. Also, just at this same location, the Tempe Adult Health Services women's restroom, it shows the old sink that was in place and how it didn't meet ADA standards, and then it was corrected with a new ADA sink and soap dispenser. Our next slide shows the ADA bottle fill drinking fountains. Part of our new program was replacing drinking fountains throughout the city that were non-ADA compliant, also didn't meet sustainability goals. So we have started a strategy replacing those drinking fountains throughout the city, not only removing the older ones that are an issue related to ADA, but also putting in a bottle fill station at each of these new drinking fountain locations. In doing so, not only are we meeting and addressing ADA issues and concerns, but we're also meeting the goals of sustainability and asset management that is very important within our facilities division. The next slide, City Hall renovation, is the large project that we have taken on this fiscal year, working directly with engineering, and have identified over the years a number of ADA ramps, pathways that did not meet ADA standards. So to get these in compliant, you will see from the photos that pretty much all the pathways and the ADA ramps have been removed. Those will all be replaced within the next year as this project moves forward. New landscaping will also be added. Going back to the police court's garage, once the striping had been completed, we realized how far off some of the ADA needs were for the sidewalk ramps, and then just some of the road entrance where there was a lip between the asphalt and concrete. This project also included adding, which is on the next slide, new rails and ramps for meeting ADA standards. This photo will show you, as if you go up the ramp by the railings there, the picture on the right, inside, that is the inside location that you can get into the main PD location. There's a new card reader and new ADA button to help individuals get into the building. This last slide shows a photo of our parking lot at the Tempe Library. It shows that we have replaced the old, outdated assigned parking for accessibility with some new striping, new signage, and new pavement that matches correctly with the size of the concrete lip that used to be there.
Thank you, Charlie. The phases of the ADA self-evaluations are summarized in the summary of finding documents that can be found at the city website, tempe.gov/ADA, and that is TEMPE/A_A. The summary of findings provide details of the assessments for each phase. One of the most important components of the ADA transition plan is community input. The city has developed an online survey that can be completed anonymously. It is vital to hear from the community to make sure your accessibility needs are being met, and we look forward to hearing your comments through the survey. And the survey again can be found at tempe.gov/ADA. The purpose of the survey is to gather valuable community comments and needs. The process of conducting the survey is an online anonymous survey. The data will be used to prioritize non-compliant remediation efforts. And the city will host in-person public meetings at the Tempe Library at 3500 South Rural Road on September 17th, 2025. Additional information regarding ADA resources and the city's efforts can be found at tempe.gov/ADA. The next steps in the self-evaluation and transition plan process are 6-week public involvement via the online survey and public presentations, update the ADA transition plan with phase 3 efforts and public involvement responses. The ADA transition plan will include updated costs, timeline, and the responsible party for barrier removal. The ADA transition plan will be presented and approved by the City Council. The City of Tempe will continue to implement the ADA transition plan and continued efforts to provide access for all. For our live presentations, we would now like to offer the audience an opportunity to ask questions. For those watching the recorded version, please visit tempe.gov/ADA. For additional information, please contact Monique Perry, the City of Tempe ADA Accessibility Coordinator, and her email address is Monique_Perry@tempe.gov, and that is MONIPerry@tempe.gov. Ms. Perry can be reached at telephone number 480-350-2704. Additional information can be found at tempe.gov/ADA. Thank you.